What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about Jurassic World Dominion. So Colin Trevorrow is back in the director's chair for Jurassic World after the first Jurassic World, coming back to do this one. He also has writing credits alongside Emily Carmichael and Derek Connolly, and we have cast coming back to this film like Chris Pratt, Bryce Dallas Howard, as well as the big names like Laura Dern, Sam Neill, and Jeff Goldblum from the previous films, and we have some new faces in here as well as some other familiar faces. Before we get too far into this, I do want to mention it's been quite some time since I've talked about a Jurassic Park movie here on the channel. They were some of the earliest films I covered here on the channel, back when I was still reviewing movies in my car. I've come quite a long way since then, and my reviews, I like to think, are a lot more polished nowadays than they were back then. But yeah, Jurassic World Dominion, the brand new 6th installment into the series, and as the trailers say, I believe the epic conclusion, which I won't lie, made me really sad and emotional when I watched that original trailer, because if you've been around since the very beginning of my channel, you know that I love Jurassic Park. Outside of the movies that I covered within my first few months on YouTube, I also have covered the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous series here on my channel, so you guys can find those reviews here on the channel. I have a playlist for all my Jurassic Park content. And yeah, I talked about in all of those videos how Jurassic Park for me was one of the biggest things in my whole life as a kid, and till this day is still one of my favorite franchises, even if all of the new installments don't always work, or even if some of the older installments aren't necessarily always the best. The original Jurassic Park for me forever is one of my favorite films of all time, and in the course of the last few weeks I just did a binge of all of the movies leading up to this one to get a nice refresher, even though I can promise you that I've seen the first 3 at least 100 times each. Maybe a little bit more for the first one, and maybe even a little bit more for the third one, because the first and the third one are my personal favorite Jurassic Park films. And as a kid, before I wanted to do anything else in entertainment, doing YouTube, doing music, as I would end up doing later on, and various other things, the first career that I had when anybody asked me what I wanted to do when I got older was a paleontologist. I remember my parents buying me tons and tons and tons of dinosaur toys and trinkets and things like that. I mean, I had bins that I ended up passing on to kids as I got a little bit older, which was pretty sad. I'm not gonna lie, I was really sad to give up all my Jurassic Park stuff as a kid. Looking back now, you know, in the age of collectors, I probably had some really dope shit that probably would be worth a lot of money today, but we won't worry about that. Overall, it's just nice to be back in the Jurassic Park world, hearing that music again. You have Michael Giacchino giving us the score here for this, and I do have criticisms. I have issues with this movie, but I wanted to mention my love for this franchise and my connection to it as a kid, and my initial career path that I wanted to follow. To add on to the fact that I think I might have enjoyed this film, I think more than some may, and I think that kind of informs where I'm coming from with this review. So I wanted to, be honest with you guys from where I'm coming from in terms of reviewing this film. But on its own, I think this is a movie that has some issues in its script. I think there is a lot of jumbled elements in the movie. I think there's a lot about this movie that doesn't give all the characters their due diligence and isn't really something that fleshes out everything as well as it could. With that said, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I found it to be a good time. I found it to be a lot better than the last movie, Fallen Kingdom, which for me is easily the biggest disappointment in the entire series. Something about the writing and the pacing of that film just doesn't really work for me, and honestly, without a doubt, is my least favorite in the entire franchise. And I was just hoping and praying that this one would be a lot better, and I'm happy to say that I really enjoyed this film a lot more. There are a lot of really great nostalgic moments. Of course, the big thing that everybody's hyped about with this one is the return of the original trilogy, the original trio, I should say, from the original trilogy. Jeff Goldblum, Sam Neill, Laura Dern as Ellie, and Dr. Grant, and Ian Malcolm, and just to be able to see all these characters again together, to see these actors together on screen, I can't lie, it made me emotional, it gave me chills, it made me excited, and that definitely played into my feelings throughout the course of this movie. There are things that are paid off in this movie if you've been a fan of specifically the original 3 films that I think without a doubt is going to tug on the heartstrings if you're as big of a Jurassic Park fan as I am. I've seen these movies through and through a million times, and I never get tired of them. But with that said, I think my biggest issue with this movie right out of the gate, if I'm completely honest, is really the pacing. The first half of the movie, though energetic and exciting at times, is all over the place. We are jumping from different states and cities and countries back and forth, back and forth. It feels like every 5 or 6 minutes we have a new location with, some subtitles that would pop up on the screen telling us that we're in Utah, or now we're in Malta, or now we're in some other random place. And the movie feels very jumbled as it tries to set up all these characters and everything that's going on in this story. Now, I will say that the trailers have done a pretty good job of kind of avoiding what the actual plot and narrative is here. So for the sake of you guys going in as blind as you can, I just go ahead and just avoid that. But one thing I will say I am kind of disappointed about going into this movie and having seen how it played out is that it takes place 4 years after the events of Fallen Kingdom. And if you guys remember how that movie ended, the big cliffhanger is the fact that a young girl named Maisie, who we found out is a clone, and we'll get into that in a moment as well. She ends up releasing the dinosaurs into the world, and the movie ends with the prospects of having a whole movie where the dinosaurs are in normal life. You're just trying to go to the grocery store, you're just trying to go, catch a movie at the drive-in, and dinosaurs start showing up, and you have to kind of live your normal life with dinosaurs in the real world. And I'm really disappointed to say that they really don't go anywhere with that in this movie. There is an element of seeing how the dinosaurs have been incorporated into normal life, but it never really lives up to the stakes that you kind of have set up at the very end of the second film. And Colin Trevorrow actually released a short film, I believe, called Battle at Big Rock, which I did review here on the channel as well, that is literally about, some families that are at a camping site and a dinosaur shows up and causes some problems. And it was pretty awesome. I really liked that short film. I would almost argue that I liked that short film more than I liked the entirety of Fallen Kingdom. And so that's what I was looking forward to with this movie, and unfortunately that's not what we get. If that's a spoiler for you, I do apologize, but that has nothing really to do with the narrative here. And so, you're gonna go in and not really know what the story's about. But that was a disappointment for me because I went into this looking forward to all-out calamity as we have the dinosaurs in real life. Now, there are moments where that definitely plays into things because they are out in the world now, but they don't do what you would think or hope that they would do with that premise. That's all I'll say, at least in my opinion. Beyond that, I think my biggest issue with this film as well was the fact that there really wasn't a main character. It doesn't really feel like the character played by Chris Pratt, Owen, is the main character. It doesn't feel like Ian is the main character, Jeff Goldblum's character. It doesn't feel like Sam Neill, Alan Grant, who is my favorite character in the series, is the main character either. Same with Ellie, played by Laura Dern. I really never felt like anybody was the main character, and there were times where it felt like that character is the main character of this moment. And because of that, it made the film feel a little bit jumbled, and its focus at times felt a little bit all over the place. You also have about 3 or 4 different character groups that are going on here that are all dealing with different things in different places, at times in completely different parts of the world. All of that being said, it does lead to a bit of a messy story. I've seen some people call this movie, and some of the earlier reviews I've already seen, calling it an over-convoluted mess or that it's a complete disaster. And in that way, I definitely can't agree. I think there's a lot of good popcorn fun to be had here. I thought the special effects were a lot of fun. I do miss the practical effects and having far more animatronic dinosaurs in these films. And that is without a doubt my biggest disappointment with the newest trilogy of Jurassic Park movies. But I really like what they did with Jurassic World. I felt like it was a natural and kind of fun successor to those original 3 films. Fallen Kingdom, as I just mentioned, I wasn't a huge fan of, but with this one, I found it to be kind of just like that was a good time. That's kind of how I felt when it was over. I was like, I got emotional at times with some of the stuff from the returning cast from the original 3 films. You have Michael Giacchino's fantastic score that, he's a fantastic composer. So anytime he's a part of anything, you're always going to have fun, energetic, really epic scores. And then on top of that, he's also reprising fantastic movie music from people like John Williams from those first couple films. So to hear the score return in this movie at times, without a doubt, definitely gave me those tingles that they definitely wanted me to feel. But yeah, my takeaway from this movie was just that you have really great actors here that I don't feel we're all given an abundance to do. There are many times I kept thinking to myself in my head, like, I wish these characters were more involved, or I wish they were together a little bit more often. You also have other returning characters from the previous Jurassic World films that show up for like a scene or two and honestly are completely irrelevant in the film, and it almost makes you wonder, why are you even in this movie? Why are we even spending time with these random characters from the past that we didn't care about? If you're already bringing back the big boys, we should just be all together and get going from the jump. And I will say it takes some time for us to see all of our characters come together in this movie, which did lead to a little bit of me just kind of craving a little bit more out of the earlier half of the movie. Now, I will say the last half of the movie, good, fun, over-the-top action. I really thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was great to see some cool dinosaur action with, again, these original cast members alongside the new cast members who I've grown to enjoy over the past couple films, even if I haven't loved the films that they've been in 100%. And so, yeah, you know, my biggest gripes with this movie really, without a doubt, have to be the fact that I just found it to be a bit jumbled, a lot going on, a lot of characters, some nonsensical side characters that you're really not going to remember their name, some characters that are on the side that end up helping our main characters that kind of feel like they don't really have proper setup motivations for them even wanting to help, which is definitely a disappointment, you know, I'm not gonna lie. But beyond that element, I found it to be a good, fun popcorn film. I think if you're going into this just for a nice, fun Jurassic Park movie, I think you'll have a good time. I think if you disliked Fallen Kingdom, you'll definitely be happier to see that this one's a lot better. It's a lot better in terms of its writing and its directing and its look and its feel, its vibe. I will say something in terms of the look, though, at times that I didn't enjoy was you can definitely tell that the actors not always knew what they were kind of looking at or what they should have been looking at. There are moments where it feels like there should be intensity and a massive sense of urgency on their faces, but the fact that they were acting with, you know, nothing there, probably green screen or something, you know, the classic tennis ball on a stick, you know, obviously they probably use something different today, but the idea being that, you know, they definitely didn't have something practical to act off of, which is what makes those original 3 films work so well. You know, you buy those moments of fear and, you know, intensity because the actors are acting with this physical monster in front of them that honestly would make me pretty freaked out as well. And so that was something that I felt throughout the course of the movie. Was there's a couple of times, which I've also felt within the last 2 movies, is there's a couple of times where we just feel like our characters don't fully know what's in front of them. So, you know, the dinosaur is doing something intense and it's getting close to them, and the intensity on their face or the urgency, the fear isn't 100% there. And I felt that way even with our returning cast, who obviously has already done this many times before. Is it absolute garbage or this big over convoluted mess that people are saying? No, but it is messy, and I can admit that it is messy in its narrative, and I think that definitely took away from the characters. It doesn't really feel like the characters had enough fleshing out. So it does sound like I'm being negative, but this is coming from a passionate place of somebody who just loves these characters and wanted to just see a lot more from it, and I'm sure that's gonna be the case for a lot of you guys. With that said though, again, I did have moments where I actually found myself getting a little teary-eyed with some of the moments between some of the characters. Just that fan in me that wanted to see these characters come back on the big screen together. Without a doubt, there were moments that had me excited. There was moments that, you know, got applause and huge laughs and like, you know, some screaming and some excitement from the audience that I was there with. So yeah, I think there's others that are definitely gonna enjoy this movie. But, you know, if you're going into it to nitpick it, you know, I just wanna tell you now, just go into it expecting a dinosaur film that's part of the Jurassic Park franchise. Expect big over-the-top action, and don't necessarily expect the biggest and best story that the franchise has had, because I think at this point they've just gone too far with how big they've gotten, that they've kind of lost a little bit of the heart of what makes the original 3, specifically the original Jurassic Park, really work. That movie had such a balance of character, drama, kind of building a mythology in a way too, you know, explaining the science behind it all, explaining this world, Jurassic Park, how it's all come to be, while also, you know, being able to tell an exciting, dangerous, and fun story, again, while also fleshing out characters. I think that there's something about the heart and charm of that original film that has just slowly been lost with each installment. I kind of felt like it returned a little bit, honestly, with Jurassic World. You know, I know some people feel differently. It's bigger in terms of its action. It's a little bit more of a suspend your disbelief kind of thing. But I do feel like they kind of returned a little bit more to home with that film. Then Fallen Kingdom, obviously I didn't love, but this one I was happy to say I enjoyed way more than Fallen Kingdom. I would say it's a good time at the movies. I think if you're just looking for a good popcorn movie, there's a lot of enjoyment to be had here. It's not the greatest, but there's a lot of cool action and some fun moments and some really nice touching moments between these characters that I think if you're a fan like me, you're really gonna enjoy them. So a big thanks to you guys for watching. As you can tell, I'm torn. This is a movie, like all the others, that I'm gonna have to watch over and over and over again. That's kind of one of the downfalls of doing a review right after I saw the movie, is that tomorrow I could have slept on it and things maybe kind of it could have been worse for me, or things could have been a lot better for me. Or over the course of rewatches, when I start to revisit those moments that made me feel something, I may start to kind of have a little bit more of a, soft spot in my heart for this movie. That's kind of just the beauty of film, right? I really enjoy that element about talking about films, which is why I like talking about a lot of older films here on the channel, because I've had a lot more time to sit with them. So when it comes to the new Jurassic Park movie, and in a franchise where I've seen certain installments literally over 100 times, yeah, this is a movie that I'm gonna have to sit with a little bit longer. This is a movie I'm gonna need to see again. I wish that they would have done more with the story, but I enjoyed a lot about it in and of itself. I wish they would have done more with the characters, but I enjoyed a lot about it. I was entertained. I was completely awake and engaged in what was happening. And again, it was just beautiful to see these cast members return. I'm sorry for the long video. I just have had so much to talk about. A couple things I just want to note really quickly, looking down some of the new cast members. DeWanda Wise, she plays the character of Kayla. Now, I enjoyed her character in the film, but her character kind of feels pointless to be there, and I didn't really buy into her motivation for being a part of what's happening here. Then we have Mamoudou, I'm not really sure how to pronounce his name, but Mamoudou Afi, who plays Ramsey. Again, kind of a similar character, kind of thrown in the mix. Not sure if I fully buy his motivation, but you kind of just have to go with it. Isabella Sermon, who plays Maisie, who's the young girl we find out at the end of the last film is a clone. I enjoyed her a lot more in this film, and I like what they do with her backstory and kind of fleshing out her character in this movie. I would argue that she's the character that gets the most fleshing out in this movie, which I felt she really needed after her character kind of being just random and weird and kind of nonsensical in the last movie. I feel like they kind of gave her character a lot more purpose in this film, and I really enjoyed that about the movie. Then you have Campbell Scott, and I feel for this guy because I thought he did the performance fine, but plays a character named Lewis Dodgen, and he's just another dude in a Jurassic Park movie who, owns a corporation that's in over his head. We've seen it before, right? That's the role he plays, and I'm just kind of bummed that we even have another character like that in another Jurassic Park movie, which again kind of leads into what I was saying about a lot of characters that don't necessarily need to be there. And then one last person I want to talk about is a returning character. BD Wong plays Dr. Wu once again, returning to reprise the character not only from the movies, but also from his, constant reappearances on Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. Overall I thought that he gave a good performance here, but again, another character that I feel like they could have done a lot more when it comes to fleshing out. So I'm gonna wrap this up here. I think they could have fleshed out a lot about this movie, obviously a lot more than they did. I enjoyed the performances for what they were given, you know what I mean? I really do enjoy what they were given, but I don't really feel like it was a whole lot. There are so many moments where I just felt like they could have expanded upon things, and there are so many little moments that I feel they could have cut out when I really think about the whole picture, and I just really wish we would have gotten our characters all together a lot sooner. So that's gonna be my thoughts. A big thanks to you guys. Hit that like button, comment your thoughts, subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.